and Bob Roth.
Hey.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So Freemaker's just getting going right now.
Yeah.
And it's a totally new kind of story within Star Wars. It's got a lot of fun, but it still references a lot of the storylines that we know and love. How do you balance that established mythology with this new tone?
Well, you know what's interesting is that, pardon the pun, but they fit together perfectly, Lego and Star Wars. Like, humor is such a part of Star Wars that it is not a stretch at all to bring the Lego-style humor into that universe and make all the parts fit together again. Pardon the awful puns. I'm so sorry, everybody.
And that includes showing kind of characters that we know and love, but kind of twisting our preconceived notions of them, like when the Emperor is giving Darth Vader a hard time for getting the Death Star blown up. How do you approach something like that?
You know, we approach the Emperor as being the galaxy's worst boss. He essentially loves sort of abusing his underlings.
Out of touch, upper management.
Yeah,
like the guy at the top who has no idea how all the nuts and bolts go together.
Exactly.
But it's full of all sorts of opinions about how everything should be done, and zero patience. Anyway.
Yeah. I feel like maybe the Emperor's plans would have worked if he hadn't been just such a jerk.
Yeah, if he could manage his people a little bit better.
Yeah, if he had just better people skills, they all might have worked a little harder for him, and it all would have worked out. But.
So, and switching gears over to the Freemakers themselves, family is a big part of Star Wars, always has been. How is this group, this family, different than others that we've encountered before?
Well, it's different in that when we meet them, they are a family, right? Like, one of the things I love about the original trilogy is you think that first story is just about a kid. And then you realize at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, it's not about a kid. It's about a kid and his father. And then when you get to the end of Return of the Jedi, you're like, oh no, it's a kid, a father, and his sister. And then you go back and see, how that family, what their genesis was. We're starting with a family unit. It's 2 brothers, 1 sister. They are a family. They are embarking on this adventure, all 3 of them together. So we're skipping the stage where Rowan realizes, oh, Cordy's my sister? No, he knows that from the beginning.
I think what's really cool about them is that you watch them go on their own adventures, but alongside elements that we are already familiar with. And I think it's really fun to see how big the galaxy is and how many players there are.
Right.
What sort of inspirations do you find in kind of dipping into those stories?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, we started off, first of all, I think going to the places that we love from all the films. I personally really was excited about going to, I guess I can say it, to Bespin.
Bespin!
Yes, and because I love Cloud City. So for me, it was really fun to set an adventure there. We've also had some fun making up some planets because I think that there's a bunch that's been in the lore and other things, and so we've brought some of our original ideas and maybe stepped into some, expanded university places.
Well, that's exciting, and I know fans are really, really enjoying seeing those elements that they know and love coming back into the forefront.
Yeah, we're big fans of the Legends universe, the expanded universe, and we want to use our show as a vehicle to, sort of slide those things in so the entire universe feels cohesive.
And another standout from the show is Roger.
Oh, we love Roger.
We all love Roger at the Star Wars show. He's so funny, and Matt Wood does an amazing job with him. But what was the inspiration for Roger?
Matt Wood. No, I mean...
By bringing his battle droids back.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. If you watch the prequels and then the Clone Wars, the battle droids, and it's purely Matt Wood's work, they became these sympathetic characters that were sort of beat down and sad, and they had souls.
And we thought they were hilarious.
And they're hilarious.
So we also thought, since the Freemakers are salvagers and they're going across the galaxy looking for different parts, we thought, hey, you can't have Star Wars without a droid that goes along on the adventure, and what kind of droid would salvagers find but an old battle droid?
Right.
And of course, the name came simple.
Right away.
Roger, had to be that. So.
Because we're like, well, what would the Freemakers name their droid? And of course, they'd be like, what's your name, droid? Roger. Perfect.
Perfect, it's stuck. So what can we expect from the Freemakers in the future?
Well, what you can expect is the future itself. That, our show, even though it's set in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, we encompass the entire saga. And that means not just the prequels and the Clone Wars and the Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic and all that. We're including the entire saga. You will see things from Episode 7 The Force Awakens in our
Rebels.
show.
Oh,
So it's going to
that's
be cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out.
Thank you guys so much for joining
Thank
me.
you for having
Thank
us.
you for
And
having
thank
us.
you for creating Freemaker because it's a ton of fun.
Ah.
And we will be back with so much more Star Wars celebration here on the Star Wars Show live stage in just a moment.
Thank you.